Hello to everybody out there in the interweb land tuning in to Parent Tween Connection. I'm Clarissa Constantine, the founder of the Parent Tween Connection, and I love bringing education and insight to you as parents to help you navigate life with those beasties known as teens and tweens. And so today, I'm super excited to have Brianna Beski with us. She's from Raymond James. She is am I getting it right, Brianna, a certified divorce financial analyst?
That is me. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. And so we're going to be talking about during our first public conversation, um, thinking about divorce. Will I be financially ruined? And so this is kind of like the before you take the steps, what do you need to consider? And then if you are a member of Parent Tween Village, we are going to have a private conversation for our members about what to do after you've got the divorce decree. So first of all, good morning, Brianna. Thank you for your endless grace and space when life and illness and technology gremlins crop up. I'm glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start, Brianna. I recall that you shared with me a kind of unique experience on your end in terms of your own parents' divorce. Shall we start there and why this is so important to you?
Yeah, no, for real. Divorce is very important to me, and this is the biggest question I get. Why am I so into divorce? And we're going to get vulnerable for a minute. When I was 26, I got married. It was a very beautiful ceremony. And at the reception, my mother shared with everyone that she was going to divorce my dad. So you can imagine with a story like that, it was pretty acrimonious. Both my mom and dad are calling me talking about how they're running out of money. Both my mom and dad are talking about how they're taking on debt. And both my mom and dad are talking about how they may or may not be paying back their creditors, which is really stressful to hear, but not the low point. The low point came with a phone call from my little brother. And he calls me up and he says, "Hey, Brianna, I got a problem." And I'm in big sister. I'm like, "Yeah, sure. How can I help?" And he says very clearly to me, "I don't want my mom to die in a flop house." I'm like, "Wait, what?" "I don't want my dad to be homeless on the street. You have a finished basement. I do not. What are we going to do?" And it hit me like a ton of bricks. The decisions you make during divorce, they're not your own. They affect your kids, your siblings, your family, your friends, and your community. So having access to information to help you get on solid footing post-divorce is very meaningful. That's also why I have a nonprofit, Not Quite Done with Divorce, because I really do believe education and knowledge is power, especially in a situation like divorce.
Absolutely. So I remember you saying that, and I remember just being stupefied. I was like, that's a not even a mic drop. That's a bomb drop that I can't imagine anyone would have anticipated. And so I know that I wanted to start with that because I know that's what drives you in the work that you do. So if we've got somebody who's got the D word, as it were, bouncing around in their brains, right? They're not quite there. They recognize that their decisions are going to impact a lot of people, not just themselves and their partner, soon to be ex partner, however you want to look at it. Where do we start? What are some of the biggest concerns that parents hold, and where do they start in trying to navigate getting answers?
Okay, so if we're talking about from parents' perspectives, it's your decision, and I respect your decision. Your kids don't really have any control, so they're experiencing this too. I deal with financial end, I don't deal with emotional health end, but what I can say, a very common thing that everybody needs to do is educate themselves. Where are you physically located? What are the local laws? How does this impact my finances? And then the last part, but I'd say it's the most important, is what about your mental health? If you're thinking about from a parental perspective, your cup needs to be full so you can handle the parenting aspect. I've got 3 kids of my own. It's not easy. I mad respect to everybody. But you need to make sure that you are taking care of mental health wise. Your cup is full and you can take care of, you can have the headspace to make clear headed decisions. You can strategize. How do I communicate with my co-parent or my soon to be ex in a way that is not inflammatory? Because what I can tell you from a financial perspective, conflict costs money and it sucks. So step 1, educate yourself. Educate yourself on the laws, educate yourself on your finances. And I can share brief, where to start there. And then start strategizing, what are my resources? I don't want to be, going to the poorhouse or in serious debt. So when I start the next chapter of my life, I'm from a hole. you want to get this taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So step one, educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm so passionate about this, nonprofit Not Quite Done with Divorce has
Mm-hmm.
those resources available for folks in the state of Colorado, TBD and other states, which is pretty exciting. But
Yay.
yeah, free resources exist around the country for a reason, because I'm not the only one who agrees this is a life-changing experience and it affects you.
Mm-hmm.
2, once you understand what the laws are, you're strategizing how to get from point A to point B. And that can go a lot of ways. So part of the strategy, before you start strategizing the legal aspect, you need to look at the financial aspect. So what I tell my clients, where are you getting cash? Because cash is king of divorce. This is independence. This is power. There are several sources, whether we're talking about your bank accounts, your investments, maybe you're borrowing from friends and family, you're taking a loan from your 401k.
Or credit cards.
You can do credit cards. I'd say caution there, because you need to understand what kind of a hole you're digging yourself into, because on the other side, you want to be able to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have people take loans from IRAs. I'd say that is a last resort caution, because if you're under the age of 59 and a half, there are penalties as well as taxes. That sucks. I don't
Right.
recommend.
Mm-hmm.
So figure out where you're getting cash, then figure out what you actually have. And this is the part that I'd say a lot of folks run into challenges. So if you can find your tax returns, that's awesome. If you file jointly, you're allowed to get them. The IRS actually has a way that you can pull them back. If you filed on TurboTax, they'll even help you get those passwords. That is a treasure trove of information. Someone like myself, CDFA, or a lawyer, or if you're in the state of Colorado, an LLP, can help you look through those and immediately identify what you have and where we're going. I would also get bank statements, credit card statements. I would also pause right here for super secret, like bonus tip: freeze your credit. Because once you file for divorce, your social security number is on public record. I didn't make the rules, blame everyone else. But if you freeze it with a major credit, this is real. So you can freeze it for free. Like literally you go to Equifax, Experian, etc. You just freeze it. If you're getting an apartment or a credit card, you can do a temporary like defrost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you do file, you're more at risk of identity theft, not from your ex, just from people that are pulling public records than anywhere else. So freeze your credit report. But you're looking at all these statements, you're pulling everything you can. I get questions from people like, hey, this is password protected in my ex's name. I can't get access to it. This isn't about digging. Literally just make a note that account exists. And then I appreciate the comment. Yeah, it is totally wild. A note the account exists. And if you don't know how to proceed, a legal professional can help you like say, hey, we know this account exists. We need bank statements or some sort of thing to prove what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that and you start cataloging what you actually have, that's great. Now you start looking at the debt. If you have access to that, again, anything that's joint, you can literally call them up. Banks, again, hey, I'm joined on this account. I can't get online. Can you help me? Yes, they can. I have several where their first steps into like figuring out what their options are were into a credit union or bank, trying to figure out like, how do I get access to this? But anyway, once you understand that, then I strongly recommend you focus on the mental health piece, because I cannot stress how the stress of divorce creates a brain fog. You think you're fine. I promise you're not. So having a neutral third party help bounce ideas off of, whether we're talking about a divorce coach, a therapist, some other mental health professional, it makes a difference. I can tell you my clients who have them versus the ones who don't, they save money, they make better decisions. It's just, I cannot stress enough how important that is.
Well, and then also to your point of having that cup to be able, if you have kids, which certainly our audience does, being able to take care of your stuff so that you've got that bandwidth to continue supporting your kids. Because whether they're 2 or 22, they're gonna need support from both parents,
100%.
right?
Yeah, 100%. And then from there, once you are educated, you have a good big picture, that's where you need to start thinking about, like, how do I have this conversation with my ex? If you're still not sure, you can have consultations with lawyers. I recommend 3. I have a lot of clients go the mediation route. If there's trust and you guys are willing to have a conversation, that is so much cheaper.
Mhm.
If you're in the state of Colorado, for example, they have cheaper options like LLPs. Think of it as like a nurse practitioner to a doctor. They're pretty awesome and they save you a lot of money.
Mhm.
But you talk with people like that. Feel free to talk with people like me where I can say, okay, based off of the local laws, this is what tends to be the result. Like I can tell you, I've had experience in more than 50 cases locally. I have a really good idea of how the local laws get applied.
Sure. Absolutely.
But that's, once you have all that information, then go to your partner, soon to be ex, co-parent, whatever you want to call them, and have that conversation. And the most important thing beyond mental health is, remember, conflict costs money. So throwing a Molotov cocktail in there, for example, announcing at your daughter's wedding that you're getting divorced, that's going to make it more expensive. If you have a conversation like, hey, this is what I want, this is what's happening, we need to move forward, great. I would also express that sometimes while you have made the decision that you want to get divorced or you're thinking about divorce, like I'm in the process of writing a book. I've spoken to more than 220 people on this topic. The average person who does start to file for divorce, it's usually a 5-year process where they try and save their marriage multiple times. They change their communication. They may or may not go to therapy. They may or may not see the clergy, but they're doing everything bending over backwards to do it. So one party is 5 years into this, like, this is where the train's headed. We're done. The other party, they might be blindsided. Like, what do you mean this happened? I had no idea. So please remember that the other party might need grace and time to
Mhm.
process the emotions. And again, I've seen this in cases where it's true. Once the other party does get through the emotional aspect, it tends to move a little bit faster.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then, we pull all this information, we educate ourselves. I like your recommendation of seeking counsel from at least 3 professionals, like 3 legal counsel, legal professionals, like you said. Colorado, I think, is one of 6 states that does have the LLP designation,
Yeah.
and that
That's awesome.
I know that that can be a tremendous cost savings along the way.
No, I have
Um,
clients who do that too. It's amazing. And I got to say, the LLPs in my community are amazing. They do a great job. I love the lawyers too, but they do a really good job and they can save a lot of money for their clients. And again, they're
sure,
not trying to churn up that conflict. So it's still a very good experience for everybody.
absolutely.
As good as divorce.
Um, Is there anything financial specific to kids that we need to consider? Like, does divorce impact like 529 plans for college, or savings that are in the kids' names, but they're minors, so like parents are still the controlling person on an account, for example? Are there any things like that that we need to pay attention to, specifically relative to minors?
Okay. So this is where the law is fascinating in Colorado. So I'd say if there are 529s or accounts in kids' names that maybe a parent is co-owner on, this is where communication is awesome. And you guys coming to agreement like, hey, this is in the best interest of my children. So that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, because I've seen both. One parent owns the 529, kid is the beneficiary of the 529, right? So they've been putting the money in joint assets in this 529. X is like, you know what? You can keep the 529. It goes on your side of the column for equalization. It's like, no, this is for the kids. This is like a non-line item. So that literally fights it. So best case scenario, both parents come to an agreement that the 529 and the accounts are for benefit of the kids. And it's just taken out of the argument. Like there's usually a stipulation in the memorandum of understanding that says account 525, whatever, is for benefit of the kids. This is not involved in negotiations. It's not on one side of the other equalization. Worst case, party that is the owner and is fighting about it owns it. They refuse to give it to the kid. They keep fighting about it. Then they have to change themselves to a beneficiary. They can either use the assets for themselves, deal with a massive tax hit, or because the laws changed recently, you can turn it into a Roth, but it has to be for your benefit for a significant period of time before you can start rolling it into a Roth IRA.
Got it.
Those are the three worst case. In high net worth cases that I've dealt with, there's something called a domestic asset protection trust. So I had a case where both parties were very well off. There were several businesses involved. Everyone had enough income. They both agreed that their kids needed to go to a certain school. They wanted to make sure there was a car for the kid. They wanted to make sure there's a clothing allowance. So they literally put all of that money into a trust. They said, this is for the benefit of the kid. And then they thought about everything else.
Gotcha.
But best case scenario is both you and your partner agree for benefit of the kids. That is the best case. In every scenario, you can literally say, you know what, this account is what we've been saving for the kids' college. Let's just not fight about it. The end. Mm-hmm. This account, our son has been putting money into. My name's on there literally only because he can't own it himself. He's under 18. Let's just take this out of the conversation. And in the vast majority of cases I work in, that's the case. There are a few where it's really, really crummy, and I'm sorry. The worst case, the other partner, has control, and they may or may not be using it as leverage over the kid, and that's bullshit, if you ask me.
Right. Well, yeah, but there are definitely challenges that can arise, especially in a highly emotional situation like divorce. So we've talked a lot about what to look at before you actually get ready to file. Mm-hmm. And obviously you're not an attorney, so you can't give legal advice, but I imagine you work very closely with attorneys to counsel clients. And I know the next conversation that we're going to be having in Parent Queen Village is about after the divorce decree. Is there anything that you would recommend for that in-between period once someone has filed, whichever side it is, but we're not to divorce, final, whatever it's called at the end. You're divorced, you're done.
All right, the best advice I've ever heard, and I stand by this, find your tribe. So you're going to be going through an emotional hellwind. It sucks. Even if it was your idea, even if it's totally amicable. I see clients in all walks of life. It's stressful, no matter what. Mm-hmm. I've seen 2 therapists get divorced, and at 5 years after the fact, they're spending Christmases together, which my head can't wrap around, but they're happy. During the time, they were stressed, really, really stressed.
Sure.
So finding your tribe means divorce support group, friends that are neutral, that you are able to set boundaries with. I don't want to hear what he did on Facebook. Don't get me started on that. Or hey, I need a third party. I would also say, look at someone like a divorce coach, a mental health professional, some sort of a Sherpa, because one of the biggest complaints I hear from attorneys, so where I am locally, I'm in Colorado Springs. The average attorney is about $400 an hour. The average therapist is about $180 an hour. So you see there's a price difference there, right?
Yeah.
So most attorneys' biggest pet peeve is you walk into their office and you cry for an hour, and you're usually crying for a good reason. And the attorneys, I'd say the vast majority of them feel bad and they're empathetic, but they're not mental health professionals and they can't fix your emotions. They can help you navigate the law, but at the end of that hour, they have to charge you $400 for that hour, even though they didn't have anything they could fix. And they feel like scum for charging you $400 for that 1 hour of you crying for very good reasons. So do yourself a favor. Write down your questions. I bet they're really good. write down the facts, like bullet point them out, because sometimes facts and emotions can get confused.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
spend the bare minimum time in the attorney's office, ask the questions, give them the facts, go take the money you saved and get a therapist. I promise it's the best money you spent, because again, having the headspace so you can make clear decisions that are in your best interest, in your kids' best interest,
Yep.
it's changing.
Got it. All right. So, Brianna, tell us again the name of your nonprofit and how people can find it to get those resources, at least currently if they're in your home state of Colorado.
Currently in Colorado, and I'd say, so it's Not Quite Done with Divorce is the name of the nonprofit. Can I put a comment in the chat for the website? Would that help?
I'll go back and I'll put it on the all of our links and everything. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it's Not Quite Done Divorce .org. It's a 501c3, and on that you're going to find links to events. So the nonprofit specifically works for people contemplating going through and are done with the final orders, but not quite. For example, on January 15th, we have an LLP coming on to talk about child support. And does it make sense to spend the money to modify it? What does it mean for your family? What if you get a different job? What if they get a different job? So we're literally looking to handle all of that. So if you find that, you're going to see all the events we have. There's a blog that covers legal, emotional, financial. Those are most asked questions, but that's the best way to find that nonprofit. And as I said, as different states get added, that website will be the hub for all of the states.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to hear that that's growing. Great job. All right. So we are going to go ahead and check out of this part of our conversation. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Brianna and I are going to head over into Parents Wade Village, which is our private community. And we're going to have a conversation about what to do once you actually have those final orders, as she referred to them. And you've got the ink is almost dry, and now you need to go, okay, now what do I do now that we're officially divorced, and what are my next best steps? So, Brianna, thank you. Again, we'll make sure to go back and add the website to your nonprofit so that people can find that. And thank you again for your time this morning.
Thank you.